What happened when your judgmental relatives finally saw what you actually do for a living? Growing up as the only boy in a family of traditional Southern women meant I spent most holidays being physically moved away from wherever the fun was happening. At Thanksgiving when I was 12, I walked into the kitchen wearing my grandmother's vintage brooch, and my aunt gasped like she'd seen a ghost. "Boys don't wear jewelry," she hissed, unpinning it from my shirt so roughly she tore the fabric. By high school, they developed a whole system of redirecting me whenever I showed any interest in what they considered feminine activities. My mother would loudly announce, "Football's on," whenever I tried to help with cooking, and my aunt once drove me to a hardware store in the middle of a baby shower because she thought I needed to learn about power tools. My cousin's bachelorette party was supposed to be different. I'd been specifically uninvited 3 separate times, with my aunt even calling my mother to make sure I understood that this was a girls-only event and we don't want any awkwardness. Except my cousin, the bride, had secretly texted me the location and told me to show up anyway because she had a surprise planned that required me there. When I walked into that upscale cocktail lounge downtown, my aunts nearly choked on their cosmos. "What are you doing here?" my mother hissed, grabbing my arm like I was 5 years old again. "This is a bachelorette party, not one of your little theater productions." My aunt looked mortified as other groups of women glanced over at the only man in the venue besides the bartenders. "He probably followed us here," she said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "You know how he always wanted to play dress up with us when he was little." The bride jumped up and hugged me, explaining I was family and she wanted me there, but my aunt wasn't having it. "Sweetheart, this is supposed to be a girls' night," she said, then turned to me with that fake smile she always used when embarrassed in public. "Why don't you go find a sports bar or something more appropriate?" Throughout dinner, they kept making comments about how I was probably taking mental notes for my little shows and asking if I still did those performances at college. "Remember when he used to put on mom's heels and practice walking?" my other aunt said, laughing like it was the most embarrassing thing imaginable. "We thought it was just a phase." My mother tried to order for me, telling the server I'd have a beer instead of the cocktail I'd requested because he gets confused sometimes. When the male dancers started their routine, my aunt actually tried to cover my eyes, saying, "This isn't appropriate for you to see," while the entire venue stared at our table. During the gift exchange, someone gave my cousin lingerie, and my aunt announced, "Don't look, honey, this is grown-up stuff," as if I was a child who'd wandered into an adult conversation. Then my teenage cousin mentioned she'd been watching makeup tutorials online, and my aunt laughed, saying, "Don't let him hear that or he'll want to teach you. He used to sneak into my makeup when he was 12, thinking we didn't notice." Finally, I stood up, my face burning with fake embarrassment. "You're right," I said quietly. "I should go. This isn't my place." My aunt looked satisfied, my mother relieved, and they all turned back to their drinks as I walked toward what they assumed was the exit. Soon after I left, the lights dimmed, and the DJ's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies, we have a very special surprise tonight arranged by the bride herself." My cousin stood up, grinning wider than I'd ever seen her. "I hired the best drag performer in the city to do a private show just for us." My aunt rolled her eyes and whispered something about wasting money on nonsense. The spotlight hit the stage, and out walked this stunning figure in 6-inch heels, a crystallized corset that caught every light in the room, and hair that defied gravity by 2 feet. The whole venue erupted in screams, except for my family's table. Then the performer grabbed the microphone, and in a voice dripping with honey and sass said, "Hello ladies, and especially hello to my darling family, who just told me 20 minutes ago that this wasn't my place." My mother's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. It was me on that stage, transformed completely, and I wasn't holding back anymore. This first number is dedicated to everyone who told me boys shouldn't wear makeup, boys shouldn't dance, and boys should just shut up and watch football. The music exploded, and I launched into the routine that had taken me 3 years to perfect, death-dropping so hard the whole room gasped, hitting splits that made trained dancers jealous, lip-syncing with surgical precision while working every inch of that stage. Halfway through, I strutted straight to my family's table, locked eyes with my aunt who'd been laughing about my phase 30 minutes earlier, and dropped into a split right in front of her before popping back up with her bride tribe crown. "You know, auntie," I said into the mic, the room hanging on every word, "you were right about one thing all those years ago. Boys shouldn't wear jewelry. I placed the crown on my wig. They should wear crowns."